This might sound crazy, but being nice to other drivers when you're on the road could actually end up being a very costly mistake. And the crazy thing is, as an experienced driver, you're probably doing this thing every time you drive. I know I do. If you're a courteous driver and you're polite to other road users, you probably need to stop it, as bizarre as that sounds. And here's what I mean by that. I just saw this post this morning on Reddit. This guy's asking about giving way to learner drivers. He says, on my commute, I have to pass a test centre. I always see learners with their examiners pulling out of the test centre and no one gives them way. But I'll always let a learner out and give them the space needed. After all, we were all learners at one point in time. But it got me thinking though, if I slow down and give way, would that count against the learner? And he's gone on to edit it, because people in the comments are probably saying, mate, don't do that, you're going to cause the learner to fail. He's edited it to say, when I said give way, I won't intentionally slam my brakes. More like I slow down to create a gap. At least now I won't be unintentionally causing a learner to fail. Thanks everyone. As a driving instructor for over 6 years, I've had a handful of students go to do their driving test and they fail because another driver gave way to them or let them cross an intersection by, waving them on or telling them to go when they didn't have the right of way. And it's an instant fail. Probably one of the most common places that this takes place is at four-way intersections. This happens to us as experienced drivers all the time, on a daily basis. We come up to a four-way intersection, we're turning right, so we don't have the right of way. We must wait for the traffic to our left and to our right. We must also wait for cars opposite us if they're going straight or turning left. Because obviously, even if there's no traffic to the left or right, if we pull out and turn right in front of a car that is opposite us, we're cutting in front of them. We don't have the right of way. They do. That person opposite doesn't have to cut in front of us. We have to cut in front of him. But the problem with this is often the person coming from the other direction will see that we've been sitting there for a while waiting to turn. There's been cars coming from the left and right of us. They now approach the intersection thinking, well, I'm going to let this guy out because if I don't, he's going to have to sit here for a while longer and wait for another break in traffic. So I'll do the right thing. I'll wave him on. Yeah, come on, mate, out you come. He'll give me a slight wave back. Thanks, mate. And he'll turn. But if you do that to a driver who's doing their driving test, you're encouraging that student to break the law. Even though you're saying, yeah, come on, mate, out you come. If the learner does, they're going to fail their test because they're breaking the law. They don't have right of way. You do. So as a driving instructor, I have to remind my students, hey, look, if you're in a situation where you're turning right at an intersection, you don't have right of way. You must wait for all the cars. If a car turns up to that intersection and he or she flags you on and says, yeah, out you come, don't go.
Now, if somebody else turns up and they're going straight or left, we wait for them.
Yeah.
Okay, regardless if they sit there and wave us on, you go, laugh. No, sorry, because you will fail if you go, even if they tell you to. Yep. Which is very unfortunate, and it's happened to probably maybe 3 now, my students over the years.
Because if you do, during your test, you're going to instantly fail. And you don't want that, because that's going to cost you about $300. Because you're going to have to rebook your test again, and that's about $120. On your test day, you're probably going to pay a driving instructor for 2 hours because they're going to drive with you for an hour before your test. Then you're going to use your instructor's car during your test. So there's another $160 or so, plus whatever time you might have taken off work unpaid to do your test. Maybe time and distance it's taken you to get to the test centre. It's an expensive day. So because of somebody else's politeness, that could potentially cost you over $300. Ouch. So don't do it. Now personally, I think this is a dumb rule. What do you think? Because at the end of the day, the other driver is waving you on, saying, yeah, you come, mate. As you can see in this situation here, I'm with one of my students. We've come up to the intersection. We've waited for the other car. Another car has turned up. The driver is waving us on. Out you come. I'm saying to my student, no, don't go. I'm probably even giving the other guy the, no, mate, out you come. And he comes past looking confused like, well, mate, I tried to do the right thing by you. So it's a crazy rule because we all know once the student gets their license, if they're out on the road and somebody waves them on to turn right, they're going to go. That's what most drivers do. It's just a little courtesy. Yet the book says you can't let other drivers tell you how to drive. The only people that can give you instruction on how to drive are police officers, emergency vehicles, road workers. So the bottom line is, you think you're doing the right thing, you think you're being courteous, polite, by letting somebody else who's been sitting at an intersection have their turn. But if that person's a learner driver, your actions could potentially cost them over $300. Oh, what do you think of that rule? Let me know in the comments. And if you're a learner driver doing your test or about to do your test, make sure you understand. Just because another driver tells you to go doesn't mean you should go. You've still got to follow the road rules. You've still got to drive by the law. If the law says you don't have the right of way, then you don't have the right of way, regardless of whether another driver tells you you do or you don't. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.